been eased after today's really concerted and coordinated diplomatic efforts.
Harry, thank you. Our correspondent Harry Farley in Westminster. And for further analysis of what is at stake in Friday's meeting between the United States and Russia, I'm joined now by Kristine Berzina, Senior Fellow with the German Marshall Fund of the United States. Kristine, welcome. As we've heard, the Europeans have long been worried about not having a seat at the table when it comes to deciding the future of Ukraine. You know, they won't be in Alaska, but do you think they got Trump's ear today in this phone call?
I think today was a very important opportunity for the Europeans to try to convince Trump to speak not only on behalf of himself and the United States, but on behalf of the free world and the transatlantic relationship in this meeting. This is a big question that hangs over the Alaska summit. Is this going to be about two major powers sitting together in the Arctic on the Pacific side of the world? Or is this going to be a transatlantic relationship discussion with a major aggressor against transatlantic security, Russia? And this was Europe's opportunity to have a sincere conversation to make sure that the Europeans, Zelensky in Ukraine, and the United States are on the same page. And it seems to have been fairly successful. That doesn't guarantee that in Anchorage in Alaska on Friday, all of those points are going to be the last points that Trump is going to rest with. But this has been the most successful the Europeans could be thus far, aside from having a seat at that table themselves, or for Zelensky to have a seat at that table.
Indeed, Trump will be hearing Putin's side of things in Alaska as well. But after this meeting by phone, Zelensky said that Trump had told European leaders that he supports security guarantees for Ukraine. I mean, this is something the U.S. would on some level have to be involved in. Is it clear what it might look like?
We don't know that yet. I think a lot of the details here have yet to be worked out. It would be very difficult for the Europeans to have a meaningful force that would help ensure Ukrainian security without a U.S. presence. And in many ways, the question of the depth and duration of U.S. presence in Europe is also a little bit under a question mark. There is a question here in Washington as the Pentagon undergoes a global force posture review about where American troops should go and what are the priorities. And on the one hand, there's definitely a look to China. But on the other hand, Trump has been very committed to solving these European security challenges. So what that looks like and what is the American role very much is yet to be determined. And I highly doubt that that is going to be something that we'll know more about this week, next week, but instead will be a many months long negotiation.
What tools does the United States have in its belt? Trump says that the consequences for Russia, if they fail to find a deal, will be severe, but he hasn't elaborated what exactly that looks like. Are we talking about possible sanctions?
So economic tools are certainly going to be the quickest tools that Trump can use. Already, we've seen a bunch of secondary sanctions, tariff measures lined up that could be used against those countries that are currently purchasing Russian crude oil in particular. So these would be punishments against India or China in particular for their current support of the Russian economy, which in turn is fueling the war in Ukraine. But you could also look at direct measures against Russia itself, more different penalties. And you could also look at additional support to Ukraine as another tool in the American toolkit. We haven't seen the kind of supplemental packages that Congress passed in the Biden administration for support for Ukraine. There's also a question of frozen assets, most of which are in Europe. These are Russian frozen assets that were held outside of Russia at the beginning of the full-scale invasion. Some are also in the US. So the questions would be, how does the United States administration, how does Trump try to turn off the financing for Putin's war machine? And how does the US administration support Ukraine's war effort? There are certainly both tools available, and there are measures that could be taken in order to make sure that Ukraine can fight more and that Russia can fight less.
Kristine Berzina with the German Marshall Fund, thank you so much for speaking with us on BBC News.
Thank you.
Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News.